Hello there. It's Halloween. It's scary. if you're listening, I was just wearing a mask. This is the mask my son, my 14-year-old, is going to take out tonight. It being Halloween. I asked the oldest if he was going. He's like, no. And I mean, it makes sense. He towers over all the parents anyway. This is a day I was thinking of my friend Beardo, who always starts his videos with, hello, Beardos, Weirdos, Boils, and Ghouls. And he's such a cool guy. I mean, I think we're friends. We're not really. But in my head, we are. Maybe we'll be one day. Maybe we'll have pot pie together. He's in the UK. He's an awesome dude. Check him out. He's a YouTuber. He does debunking, but he also games. He's just a stand-up fellow anyway, check him out. His link will be in the notes. Anyway, it is the last day of October. Tomorrow's November. Clearly, that's how linear time goes. Which also means I think we're now in Scorpio season, which is, I mentioned that because I'm a Scorpio. My birthday's coming up on the 9th, actually. And I mean, I'm not a big birthday person. I never have been. We did have some folks come over. I had a gift. I got to share this. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see this. I got a gift that it made me tear up. I've never had a gift make me cry. I think my wife has it on video. So if you follow me on Instagram, if you don't follow me on Instagram, I might do that today. And I'm going to make a reel and a TikTok sharing that because it's such a phenomenal gift. I have never seen anything like this in my life. And I can start to explain it to you, but you have to see it. So please check it out. Welcome to Seared, by the way. It's been a few days since the passing of Matthew Perry. Of course, he was actor and an author. He came out with a book not too long ago, I think a year ago. Public figure. He was big in the 90s with Friends, obviously. I did a video, again, on TikTok and Instagram talking about this. It was even hours after I read the news. And he struggled with his on and off again sobriety. Which, by the way, is what inspires today's podcast. So please, this is an important one. Stick around. He spent, by his own accord, over $9 million on getting sober. This is a man who wanted so desperately, a guy who was taking 55 Vicodin a day, amongst other things. We saw him up here on the top of the world, and he was behind the scenes. It was just bottom after bottom after bottom. There's one scene he said in the show where they were getting married, like this really big moment. And after the cameras went off, he was put in a pickup truck and brought back to rehab. He went to 15 rehabs. He had 14 surgeries on his stomach, I believe, because of the opioid damage. I mean, as we'll talk about a little bit, but it wreaks havoc on your system. It's insane. It was. I'm not a big celebrity person. I don't follow celebrities. I don't follow them and keep track of them. But when I heard that, I was kind of saddened because here's a man who, at his passing, had 18 months sobriety, which is fantastic. It's wonderful as someone who is in sobriety. I've got 12 and a half years, and just seeing that, doesn't matter who it is, because addiction doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how much you have. It doesn't matter what car you have or have not in the parking lot. As they say, it's Park Avenue or Park Bench. It doesn't matter. Addiction, just once it gets its talons in you, it's game over. Not game over, but it is a challenge. So with that, if you are someone who's struggling with alcohol abuse, which is another way of, we talk about alcohol abuse syndrome or disorder. It could be alcohol addiction, alcoholism. They're all the same. The nomenclature, how we name this has changed over time, as opposed to, we used to just say addicts, junkies, addicts. But now it's people who suffer from addiction. And it's a different vibe on each, right? One can be dehumanizing, whereas the other one, we still recognize them as a person. So anyway, if you are someone who's struggling with alcohol abuse or know someone, then you're going to want to listen. You're going to want to listen because I'm going to share some ways that can help you if you're afflicted with the alcohol issues, or And this is, I think, really important. It's not talked enough. If you love someone who does, because sometimes you get forgotten in the fray. All right. Before we get to that, quick quiz. What occupations do you think have the highest rates of problem drinking? Now, I'm going to say hospitality because that's what the show is. We talk about chefy stuff and all that. But I want you to think of other industries that you might think have high rates of problem drinking. And I'll give you a moment or two just to conjure stuff up in your mind. And while you ponder that, I want to officially, again, welcome you to episode 9 of Seared Stories from the Stove. Although technically this is the 10th video I've posted because I had that sort of intro one. And man, I'm so happy to have you here. Always, always, always. My goal for October was to get to 100 subs. Didn't quite get there. I think I'm just shy over 60. But if you're watching this on the YouTube, please give a retired chef a follow, will you? Just little old me. I would love to double the subs by the end of November. So, if you can help, that would be lovely. And again, and I'll remind you later, comment, review, share the content. It just makes a big difference. All right. I'm not going to bore you with any further housekeeping nonsense. So, did you have a think on my question? I'm going to have a sip of this delicious coffee. Okay.
Nice.
So, here are about a dozen or so that may shock you. Maybe not. It sounds very clickbaity. Here's 7 things. Number 5, you won't believe what number 5 was. It's the worst. Who does that anymore? Does anyone do that? It's so cheeseball. Okay, so the first one, these are not in any particular order, but this just happens to be first. Miners, not kids. I mean, not that. I mean, miners, number 1. Construction, management, first responders. I mean, that one makes total sense. Healthcare providers also makes sense. Lawyers, arts and entertainment, that comes as no surprise. Real estate. I didn't know that one. Finance, educational service providers, maybe teachers, I can see that now. Teachers. Here's another one that I surprises me but doesn't. That is fishermen, hunter, agriculture. They kind of put them together. And then, of course, like I said, hospitality. So, I was kind of sifting through that. I was like, why these ones? Why? I have my guesses. But since I'm not in those industries, I can't really speak to them. But if I had to hazard a guess, I guess it would have to do with things like pressure, shift work, isolation, danger, especially with the mining or fishing. I'm not talking fishing like going out with grandpapa off on the dock. I mean, I'm talking those offshore, won't see you for 4 months kind of fishing. Very dangerous. And I would guess, yeah. So I guess those things. And while I think other industries have those elements, absolutely, I imagine that these in particular have a certain flavor to them. And if you think a lot of them are also very hands-on, right, with construction and stuff like that. But managers, I've heard this many times, especially middle managers. But you'd be surprised. When I was in recovery meetings, obviously I can't share who I saw. But I saw every walk of life there. I mean, those kinds of folks, absolutely. But I saw lots of, clergy people, well-known actors. But again, art and entertainment, stay-at-home moms. I had a podcast many years ago called Buzzkill. I love the name still. And it was just all about recovery. And I did a whole episode just on mommy juice and wine o'clock, which still drives me batty to this day. I was actually going to do a video on this for TikTok or Instagram. But stay-at-home moms, lots. Some stay-at-home dads too, but mostly the moms. But anyway, it's a wide range. But I guess with those industries, especially hospitality, and that's one that I can speak to for sure. Alcohol and drug abuse traditionally run rampant in the hospitality industry. I'll be talking about alcohol because drugs weren't. I mean, people will say alcohol is a drug. Yes, I get it. But I'm talking about drugs. I never really got into that at all. So if you hear me talk about alcohol, you can replace that with drugs, whatever. So what is it about hospitality that brings out the desire to numb out? And understand, when I talk about numb out, there's a difference between numbing out and chilling out. You catch what I'm saying? Catch my drift? Big difference. So before I get into that, let's just step back for a second. Now, normally on the podcast, I give stories here, right? Like this whole premise of the podcast. I start off with a story, and then I step back and look at the lessons and the insights and the wisdom that occurs in that story. But when it comes to this one, in terms of alcohol and alcohol abuse, I don't have one particular story that can sort of encapsulate the bigger issues in that industry. I don't have one in particular. Because when it comes to drinking stories, I don't really share any, because for me, mine at least, they're all vague and boring and tedious. They are. Near the end, many of my stories ended up with hospital visits. Not because I decided to like daredevil and skateboard off a moving semi or anything crazy like that. It was just that I zoned out and people were worried about me. I mean, very attractive and sexy, right? Even in my book, Longing for the Spirit. Oh, I just happen to have it right here. I don't know how this got here. I don't know. Anyway, in this book, I don't really share stories about the drinking. I share stories about the stuff that was the sticky stuff underneath, right? It was more about the emotions and the feelings that precipitated and went along with the drinking. And so for the same reason, I felt like in this case with the podcast, it was the same thing. I just didn't have a story necessarily. I didn't feel pulled, even someone else. For me, what's more important are the feelings and the thoughts that polluted me, just in how booze was poisoning my body, like coming to that point, right? And again, just really, my stories are dull. I remember in treatment, these guys would share like their bottoms, and like some had like shootouts with cops, and some had like these crazy epic stories. And I was just like, well, I threw up once. But my bottoms were pretty bad too. But again, very boring. So anyway, I say all this because, as I was thinking about this episode, everything was just like a mishmash, like all the boozy recollections. If I were to characterize them all, I would just say it would probably be a collection of it would smell like a mishmash of stale beer, spicy chicken wings, weed after hours, BO, barf, and taxi cab. Like an olfactory mosaic, if you will. I mean, that alone, I think just that description probably gives you enough information on what kind of stories I'm passing on. But I do remember what is clear is I remember so many times walking into the kitchen and just seeing some of the cooks or other people just at their worst, like just hungover and struggling. Not like one guy, I just remember he was trying not to puke as he was cleaning the deep fryer, or guys, their eyes so bloodshot, like they look like they just were an extra in a Rob Zombie video or something. People trying to call in sick. The same people I went out with. It's like, we had this expression, big man at night, big man in the day, right? Like, it's like, no, you get your ass in here. And it is awful working hungover. Maybe many of you have done it. Maybe you haven't experienced the sweet kiss of hangover in the morning as you're trying to get stuff done. It's awful. It's awful. So what is it that brings cooks, chefs, bartenders, servers, front of house managers, and such to their knees at the altar of booze and drugs? I think there's a few reasons. I think first it's culture. Anthony Bourdain wrote, what was it, Kitchen Nightmares? I think, what was it called? Oh my gosh, I can't believe I can't remember the book. But his book, which I read, was very much entrenched in that kitchen way of living, that hard living. And so it's still pervasive. I can't speak, I haven't been in the kitchen, in those kinds of kitchens, at least 10 years. And I'm talking more like smaller restaurants, but it's culture. and it just thrives, right? It's just this living hard, like sailor work. I don't know what it is, but there is something about the culture of this machismo and this badge of honor if you work a gazillion hours and you celebrate hard and all that. The other thing is shift work, overtime, long, super long shifts, weird shifts. You're working when your friends are out sleeping or partying or whatever it is. So that kind of gets into there. A lot of, one thing I was going to say is people that they come together, right? Especially chef work, server work. Sometimes they don't pay very well, right? Especially when there's no union. And so again, there's this camaraderie that comes around there. What I notice is places that have unions, like hotels and places like that, you won't find this kind of culture in there. Mind you, then again, people are older. And so people that are in unionized jobs tend to stay later in life. So it's probably related. Proximity, this is a huge one. In the hospitality industry, you are close to booze all the time. And so that's one of the things that keeps people kind of in the scent of it, literally. It's the scent and it's around you and having little sips. And if you're, trying a wine before service, or sometimes there's beer in the cooler where the fish is or whatever it is, there shouldn't be, but sometimes it is in smaller places. And so it's just proximity. Also stress, anxiety. These are high, fast-paced places to work. One that came to me too was unhappiness. What I mean by that is the hospitality industry is it's transitory in nature. There's a lot of people just kind of like the wanderers going from one place to the other, or they're taking these jobs in between other, proper jobs or career jobs for them. And so those people may carry a burden or a sense of unhappiness. And so that can fuel the drinking and the drugging as well. So those are the reasons, the main reasons why it's so prevalent in hospitality. It's kind of like a perfect storm of things to happen. Other industries have this too. It's not just specific to hospitality, but it just feels different, especially the proximity thing to alcohol. There's not many places where having a drink on the job is kind of the norm. Not that a lot of people do, but if you see, I remember working one place where the chef walked around and just dropped a beer in front of everyone while we're prepping, while we're working. I'm like, okay, I didn't complain. I was like, do you have another one? But that anywhere else would have been like, what are you doing? But in a kitchen or in the front, like it's normal, or it would seem to be as normal, blah, blah, blah. But overall, I think the culture is starting to change slowly, glacially. I think you're going to, you have, and I've seen this myself, there's a lot more sober, curious folks in the biz, and you're starting to see a lot of support groups specifically for hospitality people, which is wonderful. Because you can feel alone. I was sober for the last 7 years at my last job, and it wasn't a thing. But I think I mentioned another episode. I had the keys to the booze. Like they gave them to me. That was really funny that I was in charge of the booze. Back in the day, I used to get the key. That was not a good idea. I hope they were checking their stock levels. Anyway, definitely, when I was drinking, it was a low level way of living for me. And right now, these days, I don't care if people drink. But if I had a restaurant, I definitely wouldn't have staff drinking after work or at the bar or allow any drinking there. Even management. And I'm not anti-drinking, but I would be anti-co-signing the bullshit culture of boozy machismo, as I mentioned earlier. I'm not one of those people in recovery who hates alcohol and all that kind of stuff. When I first got sober and I noticed I finally bobbed my head out of the mire and the muck of alcohol, I noticed like how many billboards and advertisements, and for about 10 minutes I was raging against big alcohol. And now I don't really care. I mean, what people do is their own business, as long as it's not directed at kids or young teens, which sometimes does happen. But to each their own. And if you're someone that just has no problem with drinking or doesn't drink already, then this won't apply. But I do have some lessons coming up, and even if you're not drinking or drugging, I think these lessons will be helpful in other ways. Anyway, I'll get to that in a second or in a little bit. Okay, now, would I say that most people in hospitality are booze hounds? I don't think so. most do their jobs and just go home like most people, especially those who work daytime gigs, lunch gigs, or like I said earlier, they're in the union or they're older. But what I'm talking about mostly are the younger nighttime restaurant folks. When you get to those guys, the numbers do rise. And I'm not talking about having a single beer after work and just heading out. We're talking about sort of chronic, habitual drinking. And that can either be hard drinking or problematic drinking. And when I talk about the two, there is a bit difference, just so we're straight. Hard drinking and problematic drinking can look the same, but it's different underneath. Someone who drinks is a hard drinker. If they're asked like, hey, listen, your job is on the line, your relationship is on their line, whatever it is, you need to stop drinking now. They probably can do it. They'll be like, you know what, you're right. And they'll amend their ways. Someone who has problem drinking, whether we call it alcohol abuse, alcohol addiction, alcoholism, whatever it is you want to call it, they will struggle to do that. They will have a hard time. And a lot of times they will suffer the consequences of a broken up relationship, getting fired, all that. I can say that because that happened to me many times. So that's the difference between problematic drinking and hard drinking. So I'm talking more about problematic drinking, where it's habitual, it's become ingrained, and there's a lot more going on underneath the surface rather than just pounding back a few. But on the surface, it can look the same. Now, again, were most of the people I drank with alcoholics? No. A few were, but most were social to moderate to hard drinkers. They were in the range there. The interesting thing is that most people who I would say were suffering from alcohol abuse disorder probably wouldn't even be out with us anyway. Like me, in the end, when you get into the later stages, you isolate. So you wouldn't even be out. I didn't go to a bar for the last 7 or 8 years because I was too busy isolating and just drinking heavily without judgment. And that's what we do. We protect our lifestyle. And, talking about the culture earlier, hospitality industry glamorizes and normalizes overindulgence. And while many go through a phase of heavier drinking because of this, many of those end up in problematic spaces, And believe me, it's not fun being a problematic drinker. Unless you like, tearing up your body from the inside out, getting fired or disciplined often, or having your reputation tarnished or not being trusted, unable to function at a reasonable level, being secretive, always thinking about the next drink or fix, and having all the ambition just wrung out of you. If that's your idea of fun, then yeah, just go for it. Just kidding. Please don't. All right. So how do you watch out for problematic drinking? If you're worried about your consumption and not sure how to handle it so it doesn't get out of hand, I'm going to give you some tips and ideas on what to look out for, or maybe how to manage the drinking, right? How to create healthier habits for yourself. And for those who struggle, for those who love those who struggle with problematic drinking, I'm also going to share some ways that you can take care of yourself. Now, I mentioned earlier, even if you don't struggle with drinking, right? Stick around, because instead of me, every time I talk about drinking, think about a habit you may have that's detrimental to you, like an action or something that you regularly do. Like it could be something like how much you self-deprecate, or maybe how often you play small, or perhaps how often you numb out on video games, or jumping from one relationship to the next. These will actually be helpful, because it doesn't have to be drinking and drugging per se, but just the action or behaviors that we take to cover something else. Anyway, lots I just threw at you. I think this is going to be really helpful, so stand by. All right, quick. I did think of something very, very quick story. I was in charge of doing an event where we had to do some cooking outside. So I had to organize all the stuff. We had like a spit and a lamb and all this stuff. I had to organize everything top to tail, everything from ordering the stuff, getting it prepped, all that, to the truck, and even drive the truck to the location, set everything up. That was all on me, even though we had a team. And we went there. Everything went great. And then, as things started to settle down, because it was all sorts of people, it was like a festival and everyone coming around. There was also other restaurants and wineries and breweries. And of course, we took turns like, okay, we'll walk around. Of course, I walked around and went to all the breweries and wineries. And I was a mess. I missed cleaning up. I missed getting on the van. I missed the ride back. And I just stuck around and just like the party continue. And somehow, I don't know, I think it was with a manager. Now I think about it was a manager. We somehow got into a taxi. I don't know how far this was. I don't think it was that far. And I sheepishly walked into my boss's office, and he just looked at me and from his desk and he said, "Did you have fun?" And that was it. That's all I needed. That was it. Like that was, he didn't have to get upset. He just, "Did you have fun?" And I felt so much shame. And I just felt like that's what it does. Now multiply that times hundreds, thousands of times I did something. And that's a compulsion, right? And, I share these kinds of things because by that time I was into my problematic drinking. I wasn't bad. I was bad. But I wasn't at the drinking a 26-ounce of vodka straight from the bottle daily bad. Yeah. That day would eventually come. And then that went into weeks and months and until my downfall. But at that point, I was struggling. But even at that point, I think I could have pulled away. I could have come clean. But at the time, I didn't even entertain that notion because still the things really hadn't fallen apart yet. But they were. And things always do. Because as I say, the elevator only goes down. It's just deciding when you want to get out. Now, you, listener, viewer, what if you are entertaining the notion of sobriety or severely cutting down? How can you deal with that? What are some ways that you can tackle this? And before I jump into that, I want to be very, very clear here. Like if you are suffering from full-blown alcohol abuse disorder, alcohol addiction, whatever it is, then please do seek professional help or try a peer-based program like 12-step or rational recovery. There's other ones, smart recovery, life ring. There's a whole slew of them out there. Just got to research. I have to give you the disclaimer that I am not a licensed or trained counselor or therapist or anything like that. Absolutely not. I'm just an ex-boozer who has learned a lot of ways to help himself and just sharing what worked for me and others. That's my disclaimer. I don't want to get into any trouble. So if you are struggling with alcohol and want to pull back or examine your relationship or with it, whatever it is, or even quit, then here's a few things to consider. 1, ask yourself why you drink. Like, what are the patterns and habits? Keep a journal. So you can write in there, what's triggering the need to drink? Is it a certain time? Is it a certain person, a situation, a feeling you get? Whatever it is, one or all of the above, whatever else. Also write down what you got out of those drinks, right? And what the price you may be paying. So what was the benefit? We drink for a benefit. What was the benefit? And then also, though, what price did you pay? Not how much it cost to drink, but what did it cost? Did it cost someone's hurt feelings? Whatever it is. Be very honest with yourself. Don't do this if you're just bullshitting yourself, or else you're not going to get past this first stage. So try it for a week and then just see what comes up. You might see some patterns. Okay, so that's number 1. 2, kind of following this, ask yourself, what story are you creating around drinking? What's the honest truth about the drinking? Like if you say, oh yeah, it just makes me more chill and I can socialize more, and challenge that, right? It could be true. Like, or are you creating an excuse just to drink? Like, can you socialize or talk to people sober? I'm sure you do it at work and other places. So think, again, challenge, like, where's the lie? Where's the bullshit in your stories? We all have bullshit stories. We're human. Like, this is where you can be talking to, like, if you struggle with this is where you can be talking to a therapist or a coach or a good friend, because we can't see our blind spots. So again, what stories are you creating around the drinking or whatever it is that you want to examine? 3, create a goal. This is so important. What do you want? Do you want to reduce your drinking? If so, by how much? you want to cut it out? If so, for how long? Be clear and precise with your goal, or else you'll just pick up where you left off, right? And write it down. Write down the goal. And if you're comfortable doing so, or to the limit of comfort that you have, share it with someone. Like, let others know what you want. Let yourself know what you want. So create the goal. Fourth, find support. This is hard because, especially when you're isolating, and I'm not talking about, drinking pals. Now, whether you're reducing or cutting out, finding others who are doing the same or have done the same can be huge, huge support. Like who you hang out with is so key in how you look at yourself and how you see yourself. If you are hanging out with, people who have low grade thinking, you're going to be influenced. If you're hanging around people that are self-destructive, you're going to go down there with them. But if you're hanging around with people who seek wealth or health, maybe wealth too, who are seeking healthy ways and just to better themselves, you'll be influenced by that as well. Like, even one person can make a huge difference, right? And also, as you start to open up to other people, you'll expand your social base, which, is especially for those who don't use alcohol as a way to get together, a reason to get together, which is why the peer stuff like 12-step is important. Not necessary, but it can be important. 5, if you're reducing your drinking, then consider how you'll keep yourself accountable. Have others in your corner who can help. Again, that's what we talked about, support. You can also reduce the amount or the types of drinks that you have. Maybe light beers instead, or non-alcoholic beers instead of your usual heavier brews, or maybe alternating virgin versions of your fave, mixed cocktail. And it could be a gradual thing. Talk to others in your sport group and see what others have done. Not everything works for everyone, but whatever it is that you choose, stick with it. Like, give it some time. You can't just try it once or twice. Oh, it didn't work for me. Stick to it. Persevere. It's gonna take perseverance. Okay, 6. If you're gonna get sober, whether it's doing one of those no drink months or weeks, or even if it's forever, you'll definitely want to remove any alcohol from the place and spaces that you have. Now, here's a warning. If you are a very hard drinker, detoxing, like cold turkey, can be very dangerous. Very dangerous. Again, I'm not a medical practitioner either. Okay? But if you're on your own and you decide that you want to detox, it may not be the best idea. Okay? If you feel like you've really, really been putting a lot into your system and you want to stop, do it with a medical practitioner, doctor, or a detox center, something like that. Because the number one drug, the hardest drug to remove from your, like the one that has the most brutal withdrawal syndromes of all the drugs, is alcohol. You might think it's heroin no, it's alcohol. More people have seizures, more people die from withdrawals when it comes to alcohol than any other drug. So again, if you're going to go sober, just please make sure you're doing it safely. If you're having like 2 drinks a day or something, you're probably okay. But again, I'm not a medical practitioner, so just be careful. And then lastly, create new and healthy habits. Again, this is important too. You have to replace the old with a new habit, right? What will it be? I don't know. Exercise is a great one. Maybe something that taps into creative or artistic spirit, a new or existing hobby. Whatever it is you choose, make sure it's something that is doable, doesn't depend on others to get done. Like the example is going running versus having to take a class at a certain time. Because if you're jonesing for a drink or whatever it is, and you got to wait till that 4:00, Pilates class, you might slip, right? So do something that you can still take classes, but do something that at any moment you can get done. Think of things that are meaningful to you, or at least give you some kind of reward. People talk about distractions, like maybe doing a puzzle or, Netflix or going for walks. They can also be helpful, but just find something, because when you have nothing as a replacement, you're going to go back to the old tried and true. 8th, change your environment. Sometimes it's where we hang out, who we hang out with, what you do. It can bring you back to the bottle. So instead of hanging with the boys at the bar or pool hall, maybe see if going dirt bike riding or something else, or hiking, if that is cool with them. Now, if they're your friends and know what your goal is, they'll do it. That's what friends do. If they don't want to do it, then you may just have drinking pals and not friends. And those drinking pals need to go. Sorry. And same with the places that you go and the activities you do. So obviously these all kind of intermingle. So if you want, you're going to want to change your environment. Try new things with new people in new ways. That's how you change, right? That old expression, nothing changes if nothing changes. 9, be kind to yourself. Like, truly be kind to yourself. This is a big change. You're asking a lot in the way you're thinking and acting and being. This can be a huge identity change for you and others. You're going to see things in a new way. You're going to see yourself in a new way and how you are in the world in a new way. And it'll be hard at times, easier at others. But the longer you stay at this, the easier it will become overall. But it starts with self-compassion. Treat yourself with the love and kindness during this time that you would give to someone else who's hurting. And especially if you stumble along the way, because we all stumble. So something happens, you just pick yourself up, dust yourself off, be kind to yourself, and you try again. And lastly, 10, lean into the benefits. Instead of thinking about what you're losing, think about what you're gaining, right? Better health, more money, better quality of life, fewer regrets from the night before, fewer lies to tell yourself and others. Oh, the lies. You'll have more energy, more joy, more clarity, more productivity. You have better skin. I see a lot of people talking about, my skin is so much better. It can help by focusing on those things rather than what you think you're getting from drinking. Much of what we think the benefits of drinking are just illusions. They're just illusions. And because we prefer that than reality. But once you start dealing with reality in a way that's just really healthy for you and in a way that is manageable, it's about creating a life that you don't want to escape from. That's the best way I can describe sobriety. If you're cutting back, you'll notice some of these benefits as well. You don't have to go total teetotaler to get those benefits. The occasional drink or whatever it is, again, it's your goal. Now, while you're doing this, others are going to ask questions. Others will be triggered themselves when they see that you are taking care of yourselves. It's like being a mirror, and they're going to feel some people are going to feel uncomfortable, and that's okay. You'll just need patience, you'll need courage, you'll need resilience, and the ability to say no thank you. Alcohol is the only substance where you have to justify not taking. Isn't that weird? If you think about it in so many ways. Don't get swayed by others. Again, this is why you need to remove certain people from your life. This is why you have to bring in others, right? Now, if you have no choice, like you're living with those who are struggling themselves, and this happens a lot, it is going to be more challenging, but just do your best to stay in your lane. This is your life and your choices. This is, you've got the one shot here, right? Not this kind of shot. Those two, but you've got your one life. What do you want to make of it? Okay. Before I get all philosophical and all that, let's look at what you can do if someone you love is struggling and it's affecting your life, which, if we're going to be honest here, it is. Absolutely is. All right. We'll be right back and cover that. Delicious coffee. I wanted to share this, speaking of coffee. When I got sober, for realies, the last time, I didn't know what to do with my hands. And The Simpsons, I remember The Simpsons making a joke like, today's meeting, AA meeting, what to do with your hands at parties. It's like one of those banner things. Anyway, it's true though. I didn't know what to do. And for the first 6 months when I got sober, I was working, I had got a new job 2 months after I got sober, and they knew about my history. So that was really lovely of them. And if you know, in hospitality, there's usually almost always all the coffee you can drink. And I took advantage. I was drinking, without a joke, I'm not saying this just for hyperbole. I'm holding up a grande for those who are listening. I'm holding up a grande size cup. I was drinking 10 to 12 of these a day. 10 to 12. I kid you not, for realies. Because I didn't know what to do with my hands. I was so used to having something in them. And this was like I was clutching on, like literally and figuratively. I needed something to clutch onto. And so coffee was it. Tons of water too. And you might be thinking, oh, my anxiety could never. It didn't bother me. It did, like I didn't have stomach, nothing, but I needed it. I truly, like it was a lifesaver for me. I mean, you go to 12-step meetings, have coffee, all that. It's common for us to want to we need that thing. We need that thing. We need to ingest something. And it was 6 months, like I said before, I was able to put that habit away because I felt like, okay, that was a lifesaver. I don't need it anymore. And now these days I have one or two. On a robust day, I may have three. But I just wanted to share that because things change, right? You got to change your habits. Again, it's coming down to those habits. So anyway, as I was thinking about this topic of what to do when someone you love, it's on the other side of that, those who do drink or abuse drugs or whatever, the biggest lie we tell ourselves is that we're in our drinking or drugging, especially when it's problematic, is that we're not hurting anyone. You hear this all the time. It's very cliche. I'm not hurting anyone but myself. And that's total bullshit. It's total bullshit. Because unless you're living alone in a cave with literally like no human contact, you don't have to work or whatnot. You don't have to go out to the shops, whatever it is. If you're suffering from alcohol addiction or whatnot, or even into hard drinking, you're affecting others. You just are. Even at the very least, your energy is affecting others. And usually for us who are the drinkers or druggers, we don't acknowledge it because A, we're all too in our heads, and B, we don't want to acknowledge that we are hurting someone. In some ways we do know, in some ways we're just like, we're ignoring it. But we do affect other people. It's very, very clear. And those who are affected, they tend to get forgotten, as everyone tends to focus on the person who's not well or trying to get better. But let me tell you, your loved ones are hurting and suffering too. So if you love someone who has problematic drinking or whatever it is, I want to offer you some tips that maybe can help you along in your own journey, because this is about your journey. It's not about the other person's, it's yours. First and foremost, here's a few do's and don'ts. So first is, don't blame yourself. Even if the person spits out all this stuff and it has your name all over it, it's not you, right? You didn't cause it. You can't change it. You can't cure it, right? Something very simple, like I think Al-Anon says something like that, the 3 C's. And, when someone is going down that dark path, they will do everything in their power to keep that lifestyle going. That's just what we do. It's a them problem. But understand that they're not like a Rubik's Cube or anything that needs to be solved. You're not there to try to fix them. This is about you focusing on yourself. All right. So and I'm going to come back to this a few times. 2, do stay focused on the present. Don't dwell on the past, or else you're not going to get well yourself. You're not going to move ahead if you're constantly living in the past, right? Especially when it comes to like, you did this and remember you missed this and you didn't go to all that stuff. It will be natural, especially when you're upset, to want to throw that at them, but it's not helping you. Like, yes, they're going to have to take personal responsibility. Sometimes they don't, but if they get well, they're going to have to. But constantly reminding them of things that they haven't done and it's not helping you or them. It's you're as you hold on to this energy, you're not going to have room for anything else. And so this is about breaking your habit of throwing the past at them. It feels good in the moment, it feels righteous, but it's not going to help you in the end. 3, don't enable. This is huge. Don't enable. And what I mean by enabling is it can show up in many ways. A lot of times it's like giving them money to do their thing. It could be covering for them when they screw up, because they will screw up and do screw up. Maybe calling in sick for them, cleaning up after them, like just doing all that stuff so that, again, they can that enables their lifestyle. They're not like consequences. We're going to talk about consequence. Consequence is the most important thing to someone who's struggling with addiction. They might not think so in the moment, but consequences. Like, think about this. If you're struggling with addiction, you're living at home with someone, they're taking care of everything, and all you get to do is just drink. Do you think you'd stop? No, because there's no consequences. But when you can, and boundary, all that kind of stuff, if you take away the enabling, they suffer consequences. And eventually it gets to a point, hopefully, where the consequences hurt more than the actual drinking and stuff like that. Like, I talked to a mother once, because I used to talk, everything I'm sharing with you, I've talked to many people, spouses and partners and adult children of, and parents, all that kind of stuff. I'm sharing with you what I share with them. And one woman, really tough, she had a son in his early 20s, and she had to kick him out of the house. She had to change the locks. He tried breaking in. It was all sorts of drama. But in the end, he realized, oh, she's serious. She was no longer enabling him. And he moved on and he did his thing. I don't know I know he went to treatment. I don't know where he is now, but that was it. It was about her though. And she went to that length to protect herself, her own son. So don't enable. 4 is find support. Do find support. Just like it is important for those who are suffering to find help with others who have been in the same boat, same with you. There are tons of people who can offer support and advice and thoughts and try this, and someone to call or someone to text or someone to whatever, DM. It makes a huge difference. So you just know that you're not alone, because when you are alone with someone like that, they can drive you crazy, gaslighting, all that stuff. So find support. 5, do not accept unacceptable behavior. Set boundaries, protect yourself. Consequences. We talked about consequences. You're not a welcome mat that they just rub their feet on. You can set firm boundaries for yourself, first and foremost, and then for them. It's the same thing. But you set the boundaries. And unacceptable behavior, they can get booted out the door, just like that mother did with her son, or whatever it is. You move out, whatever it is. I don't know what your circumstances are, but things can, if nothing changes, nothing changes, as they say, right? I said that, or I think I already said that before, but it's true. You have to shift how you see yourself to protect yourself. 6, do address the problem, not the person. And what I mean by that is it's kind of like, hate the player, not the game, or don't hate the player, hate the game. And when you're talking to this person, you can talk about how it's affecting you. So we tend to do you and point the finger. Switch it around and use I statements. I feel like this and this. When you do that, when I see this happening, I feel this way. And make it about you, because they can't argue what you're feeling, your emotions. As soon as you start getting into the you, they get defensive. They're already defensive in the first place. Another way of seeing this is see this as the two of you battling the addiction or whatever problematic drinking, and not each other. So you're both looking towards that. 7, don't force them or give them emotional ultimatums. Again, you can set boundaries. You can ask them to leave. You can do whatever it is. But the tough love approach rarely works. Rarely works. Be as kind as you can, but still firm. And again, I'm not saying you just let them do whatever they want. You can be firm, you can be fair, you can have your boundaries, but still, what they say is detach with love. Detach with love. And that's one of the most important things you can do. But again, forcing them to go to try. I was in treatment with tons of men who were forced there by their wives and partners and bosses, and the only reason they didn't pick up is because they just wanted those people off their back. And then, of course, once the pressure was off, they went back out to doing it all again. So just don't put the pressure on them. You can nudge them. You can tell them what you'd love to see, what would be important to you, how you want to see them get well. But, forcing them and yelling at them to do it's not going to work. And lastly, and this is so vital, it's so important, do practice self-care. if you're in a position where you are loving someone who's struggling, you are probably doing a lot for them. You are stressed, you're anxious, you're probably not eating well, you're not sleeping well, your hair is coming out, all this stuff, health issues, dietary, like just everything starts to go to hell. This is your wake-up call to start taking care of yourself. Start to sleep more. Do small things at the beginning. Go for a walk every day. Set those boundaries. Connect with people. All the things I just mentioned that I suggested are in many ways self-care. It doesn't have to be bubble baths. Not if that's what you like, do that. But take care of yourself. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You're going to need the energy to handle all of the above there, but you won't have it if you're not tending to yourself, right? Because in the end, only you can take care of you. Your mental and emotional state, your physical health, they're paramount compared to anyone else. If you're not you with yourself, how are you going to help anyone else? How can you be there for anyone else? Right? There's that expression, don't burn yourself to keep someone else warm. And I say all this with love. There's people who are struggling and you may think this is really hard. That sounds mean but no. This is taking care of yourself is paramount. Having boundaries, all that. Anyway, just please, please, please understand that you matter. You are important. And in the end, that other person is not going to tend to you if they can't tend to themselves. So you might as well tend to you. Tend to your heart, tend to your mind, your emotions, your physical health. It matters. Don't let someone else take you down with the ship. Anyway, that was a lot in general. And I know this is probably one of my longest episodes, but this is important. It's important to have these kind of conversations. The whole Matthew Perry thing that kicked this off for me. And I know there's other conversations around. And listen, I barely scratched the surface on all this. There was a lot here, but I have a lot of things to say in the past about addiction and recovery. A lot of it I wrote in here. Longing for the Spirit. Amazon. Shameless. But it is a wonderful book if you want a deeper insider kind of way. Again, it's not a tell-all guts and bones memoir and why I did this. I don't share that. This is more about what's in here. And I know a lot of people who are not in addiction, all that, have found so much a wealth of insight and wisdom in there. And yeah, check it out. Also, I had an old podcast called Buzzcut. I need a haircut. That's why it's on my brain and on my head. Buzzkill. I'm gonna have to try to resurrect it. It was sitting on SoundCloud. I don't know why I chose that as a place to hold it, but anyway, I'm gonna stop all the self-promotion on that side. Speaking of not talking about self-promotion, please follow, like, subscribe, leave a review on iTunes. Please, it does help open things up. Like I said, I'd love to get to 120 subs this month. And here's the thing too, all kidding aside. If you need to reach out just to connect with someone, just know I'm available. All right. You can reach out to me just to make that connection. If you feel like there's no one around you feel safe with or anything, you can reach out to me. Listen, I'm not a hotline, but if you want to feel less alone, you can email me or you can comment here. You can DM me on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok. I'll answer you. Okay. I will leave or you can email me. Like I said, I will leave all the information. They're always in the show notes, so you can figure out where I'm at. And yeah, if you need to reach out, and then we can figure out how we can go from there. So anyway, until next week, please take care of yourselves. Doesn't matter who you are. And again, just if you can help me to help others get the word out, that would be lovely. You would make this almost 53-year-old man, this old brackish man, happy. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you being here. And with that, kitchen's closed. Now scram. Trick or treat. Boo.